Hey guys, it's Brian with Retired at 40. Last night I was making some dinner and we needed some rice. And the worst part about rice is it takes forever to get rice, and when you realize in a recipe that you need rice, you pretty much delay your dinner by 30 to 45 minutes. So today I'm going to see if we can make freeze-dried rice that's already pre-cooked. We add some water and it's ready to rock and roll. So we're going to do brown rice and we're going to do white rice, and we're going to do it all in the Instant Pot, which makes it go by even quicker, and it makes a perfect consistency every time. If you don't have an Instant Pot, you can use a slow cooker or just use your traditional method of however you make rice. So in the Instant Pot, you do a 1-to-1 ratio. That's 1 water to 1 rice. So I'm going to start off with 3. I don't really like doing more than 3 cups of rice at a time. The first thing you want to do though is strain your rice, because all that extra starch on there that doesn't get washed off is going to tend to make your rice kind of mushy. I'm going to do the white rice first. So we got our 3 cups of pre-rinsed white rice, and then we're going to add in a 1-to-1 ratio, so 3 cups of water. There is our water. Close the valve. We're going to go to high pressure, and we're only going to do for 4 minutes. That's all there is to it for white rice. I'll see you here in a little bit. So while we're waiting for our rice to cook, I'm going to get my trays out and ready. And for rice, it's going to be really important to weigh these trays and weigh the rice after it's done, so we know how much water to put back in to make the same consistency when we're done. So how much does a Harvest Right tray weigh? I'm glad you asked. We're going to find out. So we're going to reset the scale so we're at 0. So a Harvest Right tray weighs 1 pound, 9-ish ounces. Let's weigh a few just to make sure that they're consistent. So it looks like anywhere between 1 pound 8 ounces and 1 pound 10 ounces. So not super consistent, but we'll need to know that just so we can subtract that out from the equation later. I just started a Facebook group so people can share tips, they can share successes, they can share failures, and that link will be down here in the description. And now I'm gonna go check on that rice. All right, let's release this pressure. I'm gonna fluff it up a little bit. Got perfect rice. If you've ever been to a Chinese restaurant, their rice is always sticks together really nice, but it's not mushy, and you can always get that result in the Instant Pot. So I'm gonna transfer this to our Harvest Right tray, and then we're gonna weigh it. So 3 cups fits on 1 tray perfectly if you're trying to maximize your space. Our weight of 3 cups of cooked rice is 4 pounds 5 to, I'll call it 6 ounces. The brown rice is the one that irritates me the most, because if you need it in a recipe, it takes forever to make. Brown rice, it just seems like it's a lot more dense than white rice is. I'm gonna go to high pressure again, but we're gonna go up to 22 minutes for the brown rice. I'm going to go ahead and put this first tray in the deep freeze. Our brown rice is now done. Alright, that looks good. Well, my other scale decided to go wonky on me, of course, right at the right time, so I've got a different one. I just want to see if there's a difference between the brown rice and the white rice. So a tray full of brown rice, it's reading 4 pounds 7 ounces. So 2 ounces really is not a whole lot. So I'm going to say it's the same ratio for white and brown rice. The brown rice might be a little bit more dense, so it might require a little bit more water, but we'll just have to see when we go back to rehydrate it. I'm going to load up my other 2 trays with rice and get them frozen in the deep freeze overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to start my freeze-dry cycle, so I'll see you then. Alright, we got our white rice. We've got some brown rice. And then just as a little twist, I actually did some wild rice too. I think that covers all of the rices. So I'm going to leave this on default settings. If you've done this before and the default settings don't work, leave me a comment in the comment section. Alright, so it's the next morning. We're almost at 24 hours and we're still on the drying cycle. We haven't hit final dry yet. So we're looking at least 30 hours, if not more at this point. We finally made it to the final dry. There's about 4 hours and 40 seconds, 4 hours and 40 minutes left. and we're over 31 hours already, so should be finished late evening tonight, and we can get it all bagged.
Alright, we're all done. 35 hours, 51 minutes. I'm gonna take these out and then we're gonna get them rehydrated tomorrow.
I'm really liking how everything turned out. It's very light and airy. It's incredibly dry. You could powder this if you really wanted to. It takes all the hardness out of the rice. So I'm thinking this is gonna turn out extremely well. It's gonna store really well, but let's weigh it and see what the difference is in weight. We'll do the brown rice first. Brown rice is now 2 pounds, 12 ounces. The white rice, both of these should be just about the same weight. The white rice is now 2 pounds, 11 ounces. The other tray of white rice is also 2 pounds, 11 ounces. So that's good. That means that the brown rice and the white rice are going to be the same, and we can just add the same amount of water. It should be just across the board, same amount of water, same weight. We can add back in to rehydrate these. So as best I can, I'm going to try and divide this. That's all laying on here evenly now. I'm going to try and take 1/3 of this out. So if you remember, when we put it in, we put the dried rice in. We did 3 cups of dried rice. Now, I'm not sure how much that yields once it's cooked. It's probably more than 3 cups. So what I think I'm going to do before I get real sciencey, I think I'm just going to do 1 cup of water back into the 1 cup of dried rice, because 1/3 of this is basically, if you break it all apart and get it back down into individual grains of rice, it's 1 cup. So let's try that first. So there's 1 cup of rice, and we're gonna add 1 cup of water. And you can see just by adding the water, it's starting to get puffed up already, which is a really good sign, but I do want warm rice, I don't want cold rice. So I'm gonna throw this in the microwave for, I don't know, maybe a minute. 1 minute didn't do it. Oh, it's looking better. All right, so after 2 minutes, you can see it's really getting the way you want it. I do think it needs a little bit more time though. So I'm gonna do 1 more minute. So if you're doing this from a prepper stance or a catastrophe stance, obviously this isn't really gonna help you because you're not gonna have a microwave in that circumstance. But from a cooking stance, 3 minutes is perfect. And being able to have cooked rice in 3 minutes is, at least for me, is a big win. Take a taste test. It's exactly the way that we put it in. Strangely enough, that's probably the best experience I've ever had with the freeze dryer. I mean, it's dead on. Look at that. You know that rice is perfect consistency because of the way it's holding that shape. So what I'm really curious is if you can do the same with the brown rice, because brown rice takes usually 45 minutes or more to get completely done if you're just boiling it on the stove. So if you could have brown rice in 3 minutes, that'd be a huge plus. Okay, here goes the brown rice, 1-to-1. And this is just kind of blowing up really quick. So I'm gonna throw it in the microwave for 3 minutes. The really good thing about rice is there's a huge margin for error, because if you get too much water in, you just put a little bit more time on. If there's too little water in, you just add a little bit more water. So here's the brown rice. I actually added another minute to it because it was still really watery. Brown rice seems like it gets a little bit bigger and puffier than white rice does. So 4 minutes seems like it's really good, especially after you whip it with the fork for a while. But same thing, it's really sticky, which is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I think most people either overdo or underdo their rice, but that's exactly what it's supposed to be like. It's just supposed to stick together like that. So that is awesome. So in 4 minutes you have instant brown rice. I've never been so excited in my life about rice. I wonder what 20-year-old Brian would say to 40-year-old Brian if he knew that he was getting excited about rice. Well, we're on a roll here, so I'm going to try the wild rice and just do maybe a little bit less than a cup in this one. Good news, the wild rice turned out just like it should. I think the wild rice, I do think it needs a 1-to-1 ratio, not less. So I would say rule of thumb for all of the rices, do a 1-to-1 ratio. I really appreciate you sticking around on this rice video. So I'm actually going to show you how to vacuum seal in your freeze dryer chamber to keep this stuff good for a long time. I have 3 ball jars. They're filled with each kind of rice that we did. And what you want to do is just lightly put the cap on. Just a couple threads. You still want this to be loose, but you do want the thread to be on it. So you do that on all 3 of these. And then we're going to go to the freeze dryer and we're going to pull the shelf out. So you need to take your rubber seal off. Then you're going to pull your tray out. And you should have plenty of slack on your line here. You're going to push this red button. You want to push that back and then push down on this black tab, and that'll pull out your whole shelf. You can remove the entire shelf that way. Alright, you want to make sure that your chamber is completely dry and it doesn't have any particles of food or anything left in there. And you just put the tray in where the shelf was, and then we're going to put our rubber gasket back on. So to do this, you're not using the freeze dryer itself, you're just using the pump and the vacuum chamber. So you want to close off your valve to your chamber, and then you're going to take the pump plug that's usually plugged into the back of the machine. The machine tells the pump when to turn on, but if you bypass that and just plug it into an outlet directly, it'll turn on that vacuum pump. So now this pump is just pulling all the air out of this chamber. And as soon as it pulls all this air out of the chamber, it's going to pull all the air out of here too. We're going to leave these sitting in here for about 2 to 3 minutes and really make sure that we've got all the air out of there. So while we're waiting for this, make sure you take a minute to subscribe, click the bell to get notifications for future videos that come out, smash that like button. That really helps the YouTube algorithm get this video to people. It will help out. Make sure you join the Facebook group. It's Facebook groups Retired at 40, Live Life Simple. I'll put a link down below so you can join that. So these have been in for 3 minutes. We're just going to shut the pump off. We're going to drain the chamber. You're going to know if these are done or not because your lid is still going to be loose, and this is going to be so tight on there that you're pretty much just going to have to pry it off. You can see this one's really good on there. That means all your air is out and you've got rice for a long time. 3-minute rice. Well, that's all for this week. This is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple, and we will catch you next week.